Gear Locker episode 2 with Elcar, because I don't know what his fucking last name is. Lewis.
Elcar Concepts.
Elcar Concepts. You should just change it to fucking Elcar, because that's the third time I haven't got the concepts part.
Elcar's enough.
Elcar. Get in the car.
It'll slowly convert just to Elcar.
Yeah.
Did you,
sure.
Yeah, it's not like, what McDonald's, Wendy's.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Wendy's restaurant. It's Wendy's.
Yeah.
What, you read through the comments?
I did. I looked at the comments of
Any questions in there?
The last video. It didn't seem like anybody had specific questions for future stuff. They just dug the talking gear and some of the history of gear stuff.
Cool.
So a question that I had that popped up in my head is like, is there a design that you're making now that came from like seeing one of the zip tie or duct tape warriors? Like they had some shit that was all fucked up and you were like, I'm going to fix you, or I'm going to make a rig that does the things that you're trying to do.
No. No, I don't think so, because we already had it made by the time we saw duct tape guys.
Okay.
We have had dudes send us, hey, can you build this thing? And I'm like, I don't know, draw it out. And one does stick out. Sent this burlap that was like starched burlap, so it was super stiff. And he had this whole, I think it was a chest rig or an armor carrier or something. He had built this whole thing out of burlap and stapled it all together. Like, that sticks out in my head. That was the most awesome sketch we'd ever gotten. Like, usually it's on a napkin or something. When we did the first micro rig, it was Chris Barrett, Drew, who worked at Barrett, and Sherman House was at a barbecue restaurant somewhere. And we were coming out here on Thursday, and I think he sent me a picture off of a flip phone on like Wednesday night. And I went out in the garage, and basically what they wanted was like 3 rifle mag utility pocket. So I built 2 Rallyman mag pouches and a 6x6 zippered utility pocket and put it on a panel because he wanted it as a bandolier.
Okay.
And that's how the micro rig started. That's where the first micro rig came from. And we were selling them at a price point of like $50 or something. And it wasn't going to have, it was just a shoulder strap. But then I think at the same time, I'm like, a bandolier's kind of dumb.
And was that pals on? Like you made a
No,
pals
they were
panel,
sewn
or
on.
you
It was like, it was sewn on.
Okay.
And I flew out here Thursday, and when we got to the team room, or he met us and picked us up in Nashville, and or met us in Nashville, and we went to, I don't know, Ruby Tuesdays or somewhere. For as much money Sherman makes, he likes to eat at like fucking shitty places. Not shitty, but yeah, shitty places. Sherman House. It was a single shoulder strap was how he's going to wear it. But I always thought if you have a chest rig, you can just wear it as a bandolier. Mm-hmm. Like if you look at, Andrew's always making these bandolier things and the mags are upside down, and I make fun of him for it. Like, he has the capacity and capability of building anything he really wants. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and I did the same thing in the beginning too, right? The new gear builder. I watched a interview this morning, Ready Rifleman, the 2 brothers that were here, with the Visor micro rig thing on Nicole's show, on Nicole Sauce's Living Free in Tennessee. She does a Tuesday coffee chat show. So I listened to that. And I'm like, man, everybody who starts out new thinks that they can't just build what the market already wants, right? Because we're really concerned with like somebody's going to say we're copying somebody's stuff, because you see that too. So you want to build this thing that doesn't exist. Well, there's a fucking reason. Usually 99.9% of the time when a dude's like, hey, this doesn't exist, it's because no one fucking wants it. You like they're like the chest rig thing. If they came and asked me, hey, which would you do? I'd stop doing that thing. Make a visor cover, make a chest rig. They're 2 completely different things. Like, I'm never going to pull my visor cover off and do a chest rig, right? There was dudes doing
Is that Good Idea Fairies like gone wrong? Like those dudes are making something and someone was like, it would be cool.
No, I think they did it trying to find their niche in the market.
Okay.
Whereas they're worried about just making, if they just made a chest rig That should be the meat and potatoes. That should be the focus, right? You see how much stuff we ship. We ship micro rigs every single day. We ship slings every single day. But when you have this thing that does a lot of things, it doesn't do anything perfectly. There's a lot of extra labor and such in there. Like, I thought for a long time, we do the visor covers. I built a visor cover back in the 90s for my Chevy K5 Blazer. We built one for my buddy Josh for his Bronco, and then we took his panels in his Bronco, and we stripped them and put Velcro all over them so that we could put Velcro cards on there so that you could put pistol mags and rifle mags on the door. We did that in the 90s before we ever had any other shit. And the visor cover was because my Bronco didn't have a headliner in it, or my Blazer didn't have a headliner, and I always wore Oakley sunglasses. And the first time they hit the floor of the truck, they get scratched up. And when I wasn't wearing them, I wanted to put them in my visor, and it was too loose. They would always fall out. So the visor cover was originally, we put it up on there just to hold the arms of the Oakley sunglasses. And then they were sideways facing slots, horizontal, so that the arms would go in this way. But anything else you put in there, pens, pencils, anything else, would vibrate out. That's why we started doing the Velcro, the elastic the other direction. And it just evolved into that out of our personal use. We never sold those or marketed them until probably early 2000s, if that. But I always thought there's a ton of labor in there, and sewing elastic on is difficult. You know that we have a few people who can sew it where it's straight, and then when other people sew it, it's wavy. So I always thought we could probably do a visor cover that's stripped down just to put like patches and bullshit on. So we came out with the simplistic, I don't remember what we called it, and it was on the website. We sold like 10 of them. Nobody, like, there was no market for it. I just did it because I figured it would probably fill a niche where a dude wasn't going to pay $80 for a visor cover. You see them coming out of like Amazon and shit. I'm sure there's visor covers you can get for $25. They're trash.
Yeah.
They're nothing like what we're building.
Yeah.
But that's that.
And especially in the vehicle, you know it's going to be hot. You know it's cooking.
It is.
Like, the quality of your elastic
Yeah,
is going
like-
to determine whether it's a 6-month product or
I had
something that'll
Cody
last
go
a while.
through the safes. I got a bunch of safes. And typically anything of value when we leave on the weekends and shit, anything that I can fit locked up is locked up. And when we locked that shit up, like, we just had a party. So I'm like, hey, take all of these bins of knives and sunglasses and watches and shit and put them on display. They're in watch winders, and I've got all these Oakley cabinets. Well, I'm going to go through tonight and pull all that shit out and lock it back up. But what I noticed is Oakley sunglasses. I used to buy all the metal arm sunglasses they had. They had some cool Ducati ones, had just a little bit of red on there. And I liked that. I like black or multicam black with red, a little bit of red. And I've got, they did these Ferrari branded sunglasses. They didn't say Ferrari on them, but they were carbon fiber laminated on a titanium arm. So the outside is a matte carbon fiber. They've all fucking delaminated just over time from being in the trucks. I'll park a truck and then not drive it for 6 months or whatever. And then it's winter, so I'm not wearing sunglasses. And then finally I'll pull it out and the fucking things are just failed.
Yeah.
And that's just that heat you're talking about.
Adhesives.
Yeah, and you got a $600, $700 pair of sunglasses that it's not. And you take an Oakley lifetime warranty until we change our design, which we do every year.
I hate that, man.
Yeah.
Like, I have the pair that I was like, oh, these are awesome. Like, that's going to be my new style going on forever. And they're like discontinued. Boom.
Yeah, and I have not worn sunglasses in probably 10 years now. I just, like, everybody's like, I noticed, like, when I would get out of the vehicle or something and it was kind of overcast, and then I come out of the shopping mall or whatever, if it's sunny, I literally couldn't see. My eyes would water, and I'm like, man, I got to train myself not to use these anymore, so I don't. So if I'm, like, out with you guys on the range or something, I will put on, like, M-frames. I have some M-frame shooter kits and some Wiley X stuff from years ago, and they would come in this hard foam piece that had the M-frame glasses, the clear, and then had the yellow lens and then the smoke lens. And I'm still using that old school shit just because it works. All I needed to do is keep your piece of brass from hitting my eye or a little bit of spalling coming back or something.
Yeah.
Yep. But a lot of guys, the other thing too, you'll see dudes do, because I did it, right? You had Eagle London Bridge Blackhawk. So dual pistol mag, you can only make them so many ways, right? There's only a dual pistol mag is a dual pistol is a dual pistol. And to have that advantage in the market or perceived advantage in the market, we always underprice ourselves. So if Blackhawk and Eagle is selling this pistol mag pouch for $25, well, ours is only 15. We should have actually been charging more than they were charging. Mm-hmm. And when you're at capacity, which most dudes starting at are at capacity starting out, you got to try to charge more, like raise your prices up. And James said that all the time. Several dudes said that, but I remember sitting at a table at Down Home. I'd have breakfast every single morning and every lunch with James at Down Home. Damn. A bunch of us for years. And Horton would be there for breakfast. And he's like, how many knives you make? He's like, oh man, I made 12 knives. I made 20 knives. And it would creep up just a little bit, And Jaeger's like, you need to raise your prices. But he'd be like, you know what happens every time I raise my price? And I'm like, waiting for some mystical thing. He's like, I make more money. The customer never goes down. And a lot of that transferred over too. It's like perception of value. If I can go buy a dog collar at Walmart for $10, just a dog collar. But if I take that dog collar and I take the bedazzler and put some fucking Swarovski crystals and shit on it, I could take that dog collar to Rodeo Drive and maybe sell it for $20. But if it's $100, I'm going to sell way more of them to rich people for $100. It's that perception of value. Mm-hmm. I used to get caught in that when I would go buy like a DVD player, for instance. You go into a higher end, home audio place, you see the DVD player, it's like $100. Well, what do I get for $150? What do I get for $200? Yeah. What do I get for $300? Well, this one it's got springs and it's got an all metal chassis and the feed drawer is aluminum machine, right? But I never utilized it. It just had more lights. I bought electronics by how many lights it had and how it looked sitting in my, power management station in my rack and shit. But we never utilized any of that. But they always got me because it cost more. It must be better, and a lot of stuff is better, so it should cost more.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. What was the thing the dude made out of burlap that he sent you?
I think it was an armor carrier that he sent.
Like a plate carrier?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, just a plate, just hard plates.
So, another question I had, kind of in the way your brain works, when you're designing gear, thinking about a new piece of something, are you liking to do it on paper? Like, do you sketch out the pieces
I'm terrible at that. No,
or it's physical, you need to be holding it?
I need to build it. Give me the thing that it needs to hold. We're going to first look to, because I used to build all these things from ground up, but really a rectangle pouch with a zipper is all the same. We're just changing the dimensions and we're changing the carrying handles, right? Whether it has a shoulder strap, a carrying handle, or attachment to something else, and then compartmentalization or organization inside, right? And nowadays everything's Velcro. We just Velcro everything. Business-wise, that's smart because why do we put the Velcro on the outside of everything? Because a customer's going to buy a $10 patch, and now we sell a bunch of $10 patches. That's all upsell stuff.
Yep.
Evan talks about that a lot. He's like, really, if you can just go to a few things where they can upscale. Like my website is terrible compared to Evan's. Every pouch we have should have the option on there. You shouldn't have to go search for malice clips or search for zipper pulls or whatever.
Yeah.
Would you like to add these other color of zipper pulls? Yes or no? Would you like to add the appropriate amount of malice clips? Yes or no? And it just adds it into the cart automatically.
Yeah. Like this Carhartt patch will fit on that Velcro field.
And that's why we put the Velcro, right? What is this combat cock for? Well, it's really, here, do you want to hold my cock? But why does it have two pieces of Velcro on it? It's really so that we can sell you two patches that cost more than the combat cock did. That's what that's for.
So it's good on your side, good also on the dude buying it, because he may want to personalize it with some other patch too.
Yes,
it gives him the ability to do that.
But yes, that's how we market it. It's good for him, but really it is an upsell, right? Anything that we can ship while we're already shipping, they've already paid the shipping. It's not going to raise the price on the shipping. Everything else rides for free. And if it's a patch, we buy a patch for $1 to $2. We sell them for $10. That's the easiest money. The gummy bears are the highest profit margin of anything in the building. All we do is repackage them. They're made as we order them, They're not sitting around.
They don't get QC rejected and have to get melted down and
right.
and reformed.
We don't have to build it, right?
Right.
We have no human physical labor into the product inside the business. And that's the deal. So when you tell me what we want to build, we're going to look to see what we have, and then we're going to shrink it down to fit it or largen it up to, enlarge it to fit it. But if I write it all out, the math never fucking works. And really, I'm terrible about that. I will build something 2 or 3 times until we get it working, and then we have to reverse engineer it and figure out what it is. So a lot of times I'm going to build 2 of them, so I have one to cut apart and one as a sample.
Got it.
And then once we build it, just because I've built it 2 or 3 times and it works, once I give it to production, they can't make my math work. They're going to change it around. You notice how much difference on the toiletry bags all the time, how that hem is sewn way over there? That's them. That's how they're sewing it.
Mm-hmm. So it's definitely more physical than on paper, like
for
CAD,
me, for me.
you.
I see other dudes in shops that they figure it. There's programs out there where you can get programs on the computer and you just put your numbers in what you want it to do and it'll shit that stuff out. It would take me longer to figure out how to use that program. And the truth is, I'm not going to use that program.
And then you're kind of envisioning it from the inside out. So from the thing it needs to hold to the accessories, like you don't have a finished product from the outside view?
No, it depends what it is. No, okay. I do. I probably build from the outside. And then also how to make the thing work for something else, right? Are we going to take... Really, we should have velcro in the inside of all of our 6x6 utility pockets, all of our sustainment pouches, all of that stuff. But if we take a piece of velcro, which costs, 35 cents, we sew it on, that costs us $2-3. Now we have to charge $10 more for each piece of that velcro. That's just so we take a pouch that would be $55 and we turn it into a $75 pouch. How many people do we lose from that? How many do we gain? I don't really know.
Yeah.
Quick side note on that. It's like when the Uncrustable thing that we were doing for Brandon, I've noticed that you work really well when there's a problem and you need to on point right then find a solution.
When it's on fire.
Yeah, you just start wrapping it and you go, okay, well I need an inch there, I need an inch there, okay. And then you're like, well, that was a little too tight, I'll just pull it out a little. Boom.
Yeah, when it's on fire. You give me 6 months to build $1 million project, we're not starting until 6 days. Literally, we're not fucking starting it until it's 6 weeks. We're maybe 6 weeks out. That's always how it is. I work better when it's chaos. If everything's planned, you take me into a brand new building that's all set up and only the shit that we need to do is in there, we're going to go find some fucking chaos. We're not going to work there.
And I also think that's like, again, sometimes like in older videos where people expect to come here and find like craziness and stuff, it's because you weren't as busy. There wasn't as much going on. So yeah, in the middle of the day, you just needed 2 hours to go and burn something in a random field for no reason. But now you're like, okay, well, we got to do this. We got 5 minutes. Let's get it. Because I got to get in here. There's stuff that needs done. There's more shipping. There's cleaning.
Yeah, we do keep a pretty high-paced schedule. I think if somebody just walked in, they'd be like, John doesn't really do anything here. I don't think they have any idea what actually happens. Like man, I went to SOE and John wasn't there. Oh, he was there. We hired a dude and he comes in. I think he caught Lewis. He's like, the boss ain't here. He's like, oh, I promise you the boss is here.
Yeah.
He's been here 4 hours already.
Yep. You're not going to catch him. You're not going to be up and on.
That motherfucker never leaves here.
Sure. Yep. And and you've got to have that like deep Rolodex at this point too, where like if someone has I need a thing to do this, where like the PB&J Uncrustable pouch, you're like, all right, Narcan pouch, bigger.
Yeah, Narcan pouch actually is a TK4 pouch. Right. I want that lift. I want that piece of ribbon in there so that when he pulls this, it pulls it out.
Yeah.
And if you look at our TK4 pouches, if you pull it fast, it actually pulls the tourniquet all the way out.
Yeah.
And we were after a parachute pack tray, which is the tourniquet pouch, like the Cat 7 pouch, like that. That was, Jay and I were fucking with that, and fucking Brian, you never met him, Australian dude. They had something kind of like it. We cleaned it up and it became the other piece. But the TK4 pouch, I just knew that I needed a lift And I wanted that on camera when he pulled it hard to shoot that thing up in the air. That's why we went with that. And it already kind of worked. Like we tried putting it, we could crush it and put it in the existing pouch. And then do you leave that pouch flat or do we box the pouch? When I say we really only make like 10 products, we really only make like 10 different things, even though there's thousands of them. We've just changed the dimensions and the shapes on it.
Yeah. Very cool. So that's a little insight behind the curtain. So the dude sent a burlap plate carrier. I know plate carriers kind of like a joke, like ask John when the new plate carrier's coming out. Maybe a little bit how or why did that become a joke thing? Why don't you do plate carriers? What is there a thing you're thinking on that? And the big one, when someone's like, don't give a fuck what it costs, I want John Willis to make me a plate carrier to do these things. What's that going to cost him?
I'm not going to do it. Like we built, there's probably over 100 plate carriers out there that are scalable armor carriers.
Okay.
Before I'd ever heard the term, before anybody came up with the word placard, any of that shit. The SEAL teams were using pack-a-body armor. It was made of like a cotton BDU material, almost like, the pants you're wearing. They were tan, about that color. They were soft armor carriers. And they were, kind of had wings, and they overlapped, and you pulled the back forward, and then you pulled the front around so that they overlapped so it didn't catch a bullet and travel around. And they were taking and just putting hard plates inside that armor for a long time. And they were starting to eat the cotton away. So they were trying to do cradles. They were bringing those things into us, and we were sewing webbing that would cradle it, kind of. Like you'd get it in, have it in place where you wanted it, but it would kind of just pull because the material, there was no structure to that material. So I'm like, why don't we just build these out of Cordura? So we started just taking those armor carriers and duplicating that out of Cordura. And then they came up, they got something that had the flap, right? So that flap, you would bring your back pieces around and Velcro them, and then the flap would cover. Well, the flap was made out of the same bullshit, and it was just two pieces. So we started splitting that seam, and they were putting some mags inside there. And then those weren't really working because they were just wearing them out with the mags. So we fabricated a piece that would be that. So now there's a proper piece on there, but it was sewn onto the armor carrier. And then you look at companies like Spiritus, London Bridge makes them. Everybody makes them now. But the first ones we probably saw were maybe Spiritus, or the kid out of Canada. What's his name? Cry. Cry was doing something like that. I think I saw Cry long before. There was another kid, I can't remember his name, but he's got a fucking big company now. He was...
Mayflower?
No. This kid was doing upholstery stuff, motorcycle seats and shit. And he actually copied our helmet ballast. To the point, a bunch of people saw it, and before I even saw it, Dana had been like, hey, that's our fucking thing. So... cease and desist, and I'm like, he hit me up, and I'm like, dude, we've had this out there for fucking 10 years. It's been on all the forums. He's like, can you send me a link? I'm like, no, but it's there. Like, you can go find it if we're interested. But that kid started building shit, and he actually started one of the larger companies, but I don't remember why I went off on that. The armor carrier thing. So we did armor carriers, and what we started building was a plate carrier. And there was still hard, soft. And so we did a plate carrier that Velcroed. You would put your soft armor in place, and it would Velcro to that. And then you would have the pieces. So did we use elastic? Why are we using elastic? So we started putting mag pouches on there, and then we would tie them together in the back. So first we had them laced up where you could adjust them. Then we had small tri-glides where you could adjust them to where your shit, whether you're small or large. There's just too many fucking pieces to those things. You have to build a small, a medium, and a large. I still have probably 7 of the armor carriers sitting in the other building right now. A couple of them came from California with us. A few of them we built while we were here. I always toy with that idea. Somebody asked the other day, like, what's that thing you have sitting there if you needed to generate some cash really fast? What product do you have that you would roll out to do it? And the answer is I wouldn't fucking do it. We would generate a fuck ton of money on a lot of stuff, but then we have to spin up and build it. And it's
knowing what I know now, like, shit's not that easy. Like, there's no snap the finger and like the built thing comes off the line.
Well, I feel like we've gone retarded. Like, I had the capacity in San Diego, and maybe it's just me remembering a time 20, 30 years ago, right? Maybe it's just me reminiscing and things weren't that good. Like Scully says, you know, we go and get this thing that we used to like to eat as a child, and now we get it and it's shit. Well, did the thing become shit, or did we just not really have something better than that at that time, and that was the pinnacle? And I really think it's running Mexican labor in San Diego. Like, we never taught any sewers how to sew. When we had a Mexican girl come in, she's like, my friend can sew. I'm like, bring her in. Now we have 2 Mexican ladies. And they're like, do you want more people? And I'm like, yeah, I have 3 more machines. And they show up tomorrow with 3 more people. They just know how to sew. Like, every one of them knew how to run the sewing machine. And you see here, just in the time you've been here, we've had probably 40 new people come in, maybe.
Yeah.
And we've retained 4, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's just like in the other building. I mean, even in this building, I see videos that target to me from like 8, 9 years ago. And we have fucking piles of shit on the table. What happened? Some of those people are still here. How do we not have that capacity any longer? And a lot of it's the personalities on the floor a lot of times too. When I'm not in that building right now, they're running half the fucking speed of what they're running. As soon as we walk in there, when they don't know we're in there, it'll be not as loud. As soon as they realize we're in there, those machines will get louder because they are running faster and they are talking less.
Yep. The guy who owned the hotel I used to run, he would always say the owner being in the room cuts cost by about 15%.
Yeah, I heard something yesterday, day before, somebody said, I'm trying to remember where I heard this. Maybe Bear said it. Bear was quoting somebody else. And he said, we can do the job right the first time, or we can pay 3.5 times more to fix the job that wasn't done the right time. And when you really think about it, if they've sewn something all the way through and it's incorrect, and we now have to pay somebody to cut it apart, that's twice. And then we have to sew it back together, that's 3 times. But it's never just sew it back together, because you have to pick out the thread, you have to make the adjustments. Yep. It's always 350% more to fix it than to do it right the first time. And you will see, we refuse a lot of work. That didn't used to be. And I was still present, right? So I know what the QC was like. I think that we've just fucking become dumber. No, I do. I think that some of them, whatever their diet, I don't know what it is. I don't have an explanation for it.
It's the poison in the food.
Anybody listening to this, like, especially if you're a tactical dude when you're starting out, John Carver, for you guys that don't know, owns Eagle. And when I told him, I said, I want to be a big company. Like, you don't know who I am, but you're going to know who I am. Just, cocky little asshole. John put his arm around me and he said, let's have a conversation. Let's talk. He said, look, you can hire people. He said, my payroll some months is $100,000. And he said, sometimes I don't have it because we're waiting on money to come in or we're waiting on financing to come through. He said, me as John Carver, I made more money when I was working with 10 people personally than I make now. The company makes money, right? John Willis doesn't own the things. The company owns the things. James didn't own the stuff. The company did. But he said, we had a lot more fun when we were a smaller company. And if you're a new dude starting out, you're never going to scale until you have people. But when you have people, you're going to spend your weekends and the first waking minutes of your day thinking about those people. We already know who the problems are going to be. We know who's going to have a fucking injury. We know who's going to or whatever the fucking excuses are. It's always those 3-4 people. Like, I have a list right now of who to fire. Like, if they just said, hey, I got a new job, or they stopped coming to work, it would almost be a relief. And the conversation is had with, why do we keep these people? Well, everything they do is something that we don't have to do. But as the person who is taking the money, you see the money come into the company and you designate where that money goes. It's very difficult to maintain a person who's fucking mediocre.
Yeah. Especially, like, yeah, they're bringing the positive, but like you said, when they do fuck ups are 3.5x.
Yep.
Like, so for every one that they send you, they need to send you 4 good pieces for every
Right.
one that you reject, just to basically break even on their existence or
Yeah.
reason for being there.
But I think we were talking about armor carriers. So the armor carrier, we don't have the capacity,
Yeah.
right? We're good at building tool bags. We're good at building backpacks. We're good at building slings. We're good at building individual magazine pouches, right? The real answer as to why we don't build armor carriers is because we don't fucking have to build armor carriers.
Yeah.
Imagine if we had to do an armor carrier, and you've got to do 3 or 4 sizes of armor carrier, right? Bear just put out an armor carrier, Refuge Medical. It's basically a plate carrier. It looks very much like components of our plate carrier. And they took their ankle med kit and used that as the cummerbund, which is basically what we did. You can take elastic and use that as the components, but the elastic is eventually going to fail.
Yep.
And we have product out there right now that's 35 years old. You send out a bunch of that with a lifetime warranty, you're going to be replacing those at some point. So maybe we just build those out of Cordura, right? It's just it's the cummerbund that used to be there with the pals. It's just sliced open, and we've got a piece of webbing that limits the depth of the magazine. We make them wide enough, and I get using the elastic, right? Because that's our covert rig. They basically took a covert rig and
As
used
the
it as a
cummerbund.
cummerbund.
Yep.
Yeah, that's viable.
And it's nice. It gives you some ability to breathe, especially for an armor carrier. But it's not that heirloom gear. It's
correct.
Like, you're not going to be able to give that plate carrier to your son. You're going to have to swap that cummerbund out in
And if you look, like our covert,
if you use your shit.
If you look at our covert rig, you can put a 5.56 mag, you can put a 308 mag, you can put a radio, you can put a bandage, put anything of that size in there. When I went to build a 308 rig, we realized that we didn't have to build it. It already worked in the 5.56. So we just showed it. Like, we could do it as 2 separate part numbers and it'd be the same thing, and we would probably sell more of them because people just, they don't know.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing, like, if you look at Andrew, his ankle med kit, I was fucking with him like, bro, you need to add like 5 more Cobra buckles to that. Because everybody doing ankle med kits, anybody puts ours on says it's the most comfortable they've ever fucking worn. And they've worn other companies. When I built it, they're like, oh man, you knocked off Warrior Poet. No, we fucking didn't.
Yeah.
And John was in here and saw our shit. I think before he even had one. He doesn't make his shit. That somebody else makes it. It doesn't need all those fucking loops. It doesn't need fucking plastic buckles. It doesn't need all that shit. It's going on your leg. You're a fucking goober if you're wearing that thing out in the fucking with shorts. You look like a fucking idiot. Everybody's looking at you. Do it. Whatever. Do whatever you want to do. Most dudes are wearing those with a fucking pant leg over them. That shit's not. We've never had anybody say, "Hey, that shit came out of my fucking shit."
Yeah.
Have you? Have you ever worn one of ours?
I have not. I've not worn one of your ankle kits. I had a Galco one when I was, and they did theirs both sides neoprene. So it had some of that stretch and give to it, but
the truth is you're gonna wear a tall sock with that thing, and you're gonna put it over the sock, or you're gonna wear it around a boot, and the pants leg going over either way. Like, I wore it many times before we ever put it out. I wear short socks, smart wool socks, and it was on my leg. We drove all the way to Nashville. I got out of the truck. I'm like, hey, I have this stupid fucking thing on. Open the door and let me put this back in the truck. I forgot that it was on there many times. I've driven with it. I've worn it. It doesn't need all the fucking straps. When you put all the straps, I've even seen guys that take the whole panel and make it a pocket so you can put all kinds of shit in there. So, like, you end up with this huge thing.
Yeah, it looks like your leg is the snake that ate the rabbit.
It does, yeah. And then you put it around a boot. Like, that's why our extender's in there. It comes with that extender piece. But everybody takes this shit, and they take what should be a $50, $60 product, turn it into a $120 product, but still only charge $60, $70 for it. And it's just fucking enormous. Everybody has an answer. Everybody has a solution for a fucking answer that's not being asked.
Yeah.
And they do that rather than just building the thing where it's simple for them to build, it functions, and you can produce them. Anytime we do a buckle, it's way more than putting Velcro, right? The Velcro is easier to build. The buckle, you have to put and then they do the buckle, and we've got to put the Velcro and the other piece of Velcro that holds the buckle in place, and then you add all the bulk. It really should cost $5 for every fucking extra buckle that we put on. And that's not profit. So if you're going to profit, you need to double, you need to fucking, if you're not fucking doubling what it costs you to build the thing, you're going out of business. You just don't realize that you are yet. And people like, we want to put out the best product in the world and we want to have a fair price. You're not in business to have a fucking fair price.
Yeah.
If that's some bullshit that you use in marketing to basically trick people, perfect. But you're going out of business. Like if you're not doubling your money.
Yeah. Fair compared to.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so they think, all right, well, if this ankle kit cost X and this one cost X, like mine's going to need to cost this.
That's why we've seen a few friends that build these fucking things, and you're like, oh man, you should put Cobra buckles on there. Like, let's make this even cost more and be fucking heavier and fucking, louder. It's just wild. Dudes who are new in the market try to do a lot of shit to set them apart from the other people. But the other people who they're trying to be set apart from have decades in the fucking industry. Maybe you should do what they're fucking doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, is that an ego thing? Did you find yourself doing that?
I don't think it's I don't think it's an ego thing, man. I think it's so that you're trying to, so that nobody can say you copied them. I really think that's what it is. I think it's so that they can, and maybe just stand out and be different, but you don't have enough fucking audience to stand out and be different. Work on your content, put your shit up, get your customers.
So I shouldn't start out the LCAR like social media stuff by like trying to shoot pistols upside down with
You're different.
pinkies, or...
You're different. Like, you can shoot a pistol upside down with your pinky.
Yeah.
Right? I have no doubt that you can if you say that, because I've seen James do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you spent a lot of time. I don't think people realize how close and how much time you spent with James. There was a couple of years there where I never saw James without you. I didn't see him hauling other dipshits around. It was you that was with him every fucking time he came here.
Yeah.
And he said a lot of mean things. I thought he was just like being mean to you, but I get it, man. You're just fucking straight retarded. I say that to him all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I thought James was just being mean to you. Now I totally see why he said those things.
Man, dude, if I had $1 for every time he called me retarded,
it's just like being home.
Because it was a 50-50. Like,
whether he said it out of love or he really meant it.
Yeah, or when he said something, what he meant. Like, one day he comes, he's like, hey, I need these 2x4s cut to 5 foot. And like, I might have had the saw blade on the opposite side, so it was like 4/11 and 7/8 or something. And he's like, what part of fucking 5 feet don't you get, you retard?
But if I told you, see, I know better.
Yeah.
Because I know if I go, hey, I need this wood cut in half.
Yeah.
I expect a 10-foot piece of wood's going to be 2 5-foot pieces. But I also know that I have to specify that I want them in half long ways, not down the middle.
Yeah.
I don't want 2 10-foot pieces left over. And I've dealt with enough fucking nonsense that you might come back and have all those 2x4s still 10 feet, but now they're 1x2s,
Yeah. Or at least like give me the margin of error that we're working with. Cause like the next time I cut 2x4s for him, I'm like nailing them down. Like every one of them is 5 on the tee. There's like, some scraps over there that are like, 1/4 inch because the 2x4 wasn't 10 foot, and he's like, what are you doing?
This should have taken you 10 minutes.
Just look at it, about half, whack it. And I'm like yesterday.
What are we? What are we
week?
really after? Do we want this board cut right in half, or do we want all of them at the end of the day to be the same size? Because we're going to cut one, and we're going to use that as a gauge, and we're going to mark them all off of that. Or we're going to have a guard on a table saw with a run out, and we're just going to fucking chop them off the guard or whatever.
Yeah. So he realized, I guess at one point he was like, all right, I've got to give you instructions with like what I want, because sometimes he would be wildly like, he wanted things precise, absolutely precise. Some things he was like, good enough is good enough. So he started to differentiate that shit with me. I got yelled at once for the way I was putting ice into a cooler.
But I think what people don't realize, right, because I do it with Isaac, we're teaching you to do the things the way we want them done. Mm-hmm. And this situation right here has nothing to do with this situation right here. It had nothing to do with the ice. It had nothing to do with the 2x4s. It's teaching you how we do it so that when you do other things and we put you out on a task, it's going to be done the way we would do it. We are calibrating you on how things get done, not what that thing is.
Yeah.
I've taken Isaac up to fucking do the animals. I tell him, any of the kids, I'm like, I know you see this as a bunch of nonsense, but if you do it in this pattern, it is in a circular rotation and nothing gets missed. If you ping pong back and forth and you miss this cage, these animals have no fucking water that day. And if you duplicate it twice, on the third day when you realize it happened, those animals are dead at this point. There's a very precise reason. You are not going to come into something that I have done for 30 years and find a better way to do it. You might seemingly think that it's a better way, but there is something that you have missed.
Yeah, like you tried that, figured out why it doesn't work back in '99.
Yep. Like we get the good idea fairies all the time, and you'll catch them doing things. And they're like, "Look, man," and I'll tell you, I'll show you how to do it. The second time, I'm like, "Hey, I already showed you how to do this way. This is how we're going to do it, right?" And if I go, "Hey, check this out. Have you thought maybe do it this way?" Me giving you an example of how to do something is me letting you come to that idea on your own terms without me slamming your fucking head on the table and going, "This is how we're going to fucking do it."
Yeah.
Which comes on the third time. Like there's not a better way to do things. Like I'll even let dudes look at shit. There's no reason. And when we break it down, especially an employee, they don't look at things as cost per minute. They look at things as, well, this hour. They really don't. They have no idea. They don't look at things in dollar signs at all.
Yeah.
At one little bit.
No, most people go through life, they're just going through the motions. Like, I get paid this much per hour. They're not thinking at all.
When I told Isaac this morning, I'm like, "Hey, what's your Bitcoin account look like?" And he's like, "I have some Bitcoin." That's the evasive, right? Well, what is that in US dollars? $120. Okay, so you have no Bitcoin. I'm like, "Hey, how do you buy it?" "Well, I buy it through Cash App." I'm like, "Do you know that you can, how does the money get in Cash App?" Because that's when we're unraveling this, right? "Well, the money gets in Cash App because it just transfers from my bank account." "Okay, so you're linked to a debit card. Perfect. Do you know that you can set up your Cash App account so that it buys Bitcoin every day? Or every time a transaction's made, it'll buy a certain amount of Bitcoin at that same time, right? So you can set these accounts up to where every day it puts $100 of Bitcoin in." And he's like, $100? I'm like, "Okay, a week." He's like, "I don't have $100 to put in per week of Bitcoin." I'm like, "Dude, I try to buy $1,000 of Bitcoin a day." And it like blows his mind. He goes, "What? But I don't have that money." I go, "But you can have that money," right? People look at they find something that they think they don't mind doing, and they kind of know what that makes. And that's the settlement, right? You find something that makes this a finite amount of money, and no matter what you do, that fucking task or that job is never going to make more money. You just chose the wrong thing. You've got to do something, or
you're doing it with the wrong intensity.
Or, yeah, that's it, right? You have to do more in less amount of time, or you have to spend more time. And the real answer is you do more in the less amount of time, you get more done in lesser amount of time, and do that fucking 2 or 3 times, right? People are at work for 8 hours. They're not working 8 hours. They are at a place for 8 hours. They really work for about 4 to 6 hours. If you're at a job for 8 hours, you've got 16 more hours, right? We'll give you 6 hours for sleep. You need more than that, you make it up on the weekends. But the real answer is you work on the weekends also. And you maintain that, and you do that until you're fucking 30, 40 years old. Then you've changed the entire fucking course of your family's life, right? You've changed everything in the future history of your last name.
Oh, hindsight's 2020, man. The thing is, none of the 18, 21-year-old kids, I'll call them, that are listening to us right now, are gonna take this advice. Like,
well, they're not listening to it because
they're-
we're not on Reddit, we're not on TikTok, we're not on wherever they are.
like I wish someone, I'll say I wish someone would have told me that shit.
Nah, they did tell you.
But they did.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they told me to. Like,
Yeah.
we were just
But
too.
It was too much fun to
And-
buy drinks for the entire town when the boat got back into town.
When you were
know?
20, did you think you'd live to be 30?
No.
Right? We're living too fast. We're not gonna make it. And here you are at 30, and you're like, holy shit, man! They said that doctor said when I turned 30, this surgery's gonna hurt, and it did. Like, and it's not because I remembered it and I was waiting to turn 30. I jumped out of the truck and I'm like, oh shit, my fucking leg hurts. I remember, and then you remember the doc. For my 30th birthday, I got steps put at the other shop to walk up instead of hop up the 4-foot shipping dock. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
And like, we weren't open to it. But back to the armor thing, we don't have to make it. We don't have the capacity to do it. I think every year, every few months, I'm like, let's just build a few plate carriers. There's one for sale right now on eBay. Somebody just sent me a picture of. It's my design. I didn't build it. All that light tan webbing, that was done while I was in prison. I didn't buy any of that bullshit. It didn't come out of my shop. It's my design. Anything with bar tack never came out of my shop. We never had a bar tack. You see a lot of that come out of the shop while I was gone. And it just holds armor. I mean, yeah, it's just plate and plate. That's all that thing was. It doesn't even have, maybe it had some side straps to it of some sort. I think it was elastic maybe, but we don't have to build them.
So talk bar tack for a minute, because I'm sure there's a bunch of people who haven't heard your thoughts and
So a
Yeah.
bar tack is going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You can space it, right? A bar tack is going to, like a 1-inch bar tack is going to come in just under 1 inch. It's not, because you don't want it to overshoot the width of the webbing. For instance, 1-inch webbing. It's much stronger. You don't fucking need it. Like, we've never, and most dudes can't work on a fucking bar tack machine. And when the bar tack goes down, we can't just fucking fix the bar
so
tack
it's
machine.
a separate sewing machine.
Yeah, none of these
does
machines
it?
bar tack. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a programmed machine, or it was a machine that only does the bar tack, and that's what it does. It looks completely different than our machines in there, and it's just not necessary. Like, there used to be these little motherfuckers that would go around like, SOE gear's not bar tacked. Well, okay, don't fucking buy it, because we can't build enough of the shit we're already building that's not bar tacked.
Yeah.
We go on our pals, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5, depending where it is. 3 holds it no problem. We travel across from this row of webbing to make pals down 1 inch down to the next one. We go 1, 2, 3, and at the top I'm going to go 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3 up, and then 1, 2, 3. I'm going to travel across and do the same thing, come back up. But that top leading edge, we're going to tack it. There's going to be 5 stitches in that top piece, maybe not in the whole 1-inch width. It just doesn't need it.
Yeah. So
There were companies, like when you started seeing Molly gear really come out, you had big CNC type machines. You had machines that are as big as this table here. And they would take, and a lot of it was just creating jobs for people, because a lot of it was made by like Industry of the Blind or Lighthouse Industries. They're legitimately blind people. London Bridge had a big program where they had wounded veterans that would come in, and they would kind of put all this shit together. They would hot glue the webbing in place and staple the webbing in place. And then it would get put on a table. And the table had this big fucking metal clamp. And it would go down, and it had all these cutouts. And the head of the machine would go, and it would just sew this whole bed of pals. And that's how they were making all that shit. Well, those machines with the clamps used, like, we saw them going for 30, we saw them at 120 grand. And that machine, that does one fucking thing until somebody else comes in and retunes and reprograms that whole fucking machine. It's not something we do at our level.
right.
You got to have a dude.
Yeah. So like at certain points, like,
It's for government. It's for speeding up contracts where you
Yeah.
have fucking hundreds of thousands of pieces to do.
but making changes, like that's turning a shipping container ship versus like
Yeah.
being able to make jet ski moves out on the water.
That's a good way to look at it. That's why we don't chase big contracts and shit. We don't do any of that shit. I can control my market. It's also when you're making mass quantities of that shit, It's like John Carver said, owned Eagle. He said, we would do these big military contracts, and as soon as they were over, while we're doing government contract, all we can do is government contract. And now that we're done with government contract, we have no client base. We have no customer base. We've told everybody we don't build gear for the individual, and we don't build small batches of gear for the last 2-3 years. And now we have to fucking build back up our customer base. And now I've got all these people that I don't have employment for.
Yeah, you gotta lay them off.
Yeah, they brought a ton of Croatians in. They brought a bunch of people from like Bosnia and shit. Hit Fenton, Missouri. That's where he's at. So they would come in. That's why like those people landed there. They got put there, and they employed them at Eagle.
Cool.
Quick question, actually, going back onto the plate carriers. Would that just basically make your shop shut down, and each person would have a task on the plate carrier? So in return, would the money equal out plate carrier wise as it would just keeping everything running?
The truth is, I don't fucking know.
Because nobody would be able to make any of the other.
I don't run business the way like we're not gonna math this out and make this shit work. We're gonna do it how we do it, and then we're gonna make that work.
Yeah.
Like, that's our problem, right? We don't do production in a manner that we have 100 people in there, and it goes from station 1 to station 2 to station 3 to station 4. When you run production in that manner, you see who your weak people are, right? And you replace them to other tasks. Whereas we're running 2 or 3 people, and they're all building tool bags. And then you've got 4 or 5 people in there, and they're building micro rigs. Or you've got just one person building slings. We don't run production like that, because when you have quantities of product, we have to warehouse that, and we have to build a customer base for that. You have to go back to a dealer program. Whereas, hey, we have these, and then you're doing a 30% margin. We keep our entire margin, and we sell to the individual consumer. And there's always an urgency for our product, because we don't have 1,000 slings sitting here you can just come by. And when you see this thing drop, you better fucking buy it, because if you don't, somebody else did and it's gone. There's always an urgency for our product. When you have a dealer program, and you've got a couple dealers, or you have some bad press come out on the internet, you're seeing it right now with like all the Tim Kennedy, Mike Glover, all these dudes. Everybody's like stolen valor. And when you look at one of these dudes' videos, I saw a video or an ad where they used Tim Kennedy in some advertisement. I read a couple hundred comments, and they're like, "I would never buy your product because of Tim Kennedy." I don't have a fucking dog in that fight. I don't give a fuck what they did, whether it's true what he said about it or not. We gained from what he said. He bought a bunch of people in the industry from what he said. And was he with SF? Yes, he was. Did he fucking kill a bunch of people with grenades? I don't know. Don't care. It's still good for business. Like Grantham the other day. People were like, what do you think about Grantham? I'm like, I think Grantham's videos are fucking awesome. He did this whole set on urban survival and mountain survival and how to fight if your country was occupied. And he's like, we stopped doing them because people didn't comment on them. They had the most value. They were not entertainment. They were education. And then people were like, well, his wife said this. I go, I didn't even know he was married. I go, do we watch him because he's married?
Yeah.
I didn't know he had kids. Do we watch him because he's a Christian, wholesome dude? I didn't know none of that shit. We watch him because of his content. And now 300 dudes are asking me what I think about him because of some negative shit. I don't fucking care. I don't know. Not my business. That's not why we follow those dudes. But back to that, right? If you have a bunch of dealers, everybody fucking dogpiles. So if you have some company that's the representative or the mouthpiece for, and now everybody's mad at him, you're going to have all these shops that carry that product putting that shop at a discount, and you can't control that market. Yeah. I say what I want to say, and nobody can shut me down. We had a dealer, and some new management took over, and that new management did not like John Willis. And they took all the SOE product and were selling it 20 cents on the dollar. I actually had somebody walk in and buy a bunch of my shit at that shop. And we brought it back in here and sold it the fucking minute we had it. It was laptop bag, like expensive shit.
Oh, shit.
We bought it 20 cents on the dollar and resold it. And that's when I'm like, I'm not going to have my market fucked up. And it's way easier. So we just started selling direct to consumer.
And it also allows, like you always say, for that hit it and quit it if it, the urgency.
Hit it, quit it. It builds the urgency, but it also, nobody can control what John Willis says. Nobody can control what John Willis does. Nobody can fucking, be mad and boycott out in front of my shop. You can't fucking ban me. You can't take shit away from, well, why are you out doing this on the weekends? Why aren't you building our product? Nobody can say dick.
Yeah, that's
and they do
you
that.
need to work more.
Yeah, you need to work more. Why aren't you work? They do, man. People
Why
do
aren't
that.
You building
Yeah,
our gear.
Yeah.
Damn.
So there's no chance of that happening. Like the first time when somebody said some super shitty shit to Amanda, and I texted it out, she's like, "What's going to happen?" I go, "Who cares what happens? We own we don't owe nobody nothing. Every fucking stitch of material that comes in this building is prepaid for. You can't fuck up my mortgage. like what are you gonna do? Yeah. I don't even have a fucking mortgage anymore."
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it comes down to the best thing is to say is it's your freedom relies on that.
Yeah.
It relies on owning your own shit.
It does, and controlling your own market. Yeah. That's the biggest part of it, right? If we could just stop making this and build something completely different.
Yeah.
We could. I mean, and we didn't even have to do that, right? We can take our fanny pack or our fupa and market it to motorcycle guys. This is how you put it on the handlebars. Because you see other companies doing handlebar bags, right? Mm-hmm. We can take our tool bags, which we sell to our client base, and now sell them to dudes with overland. How do we do that? We just show some fucking overland trucks, some off-road trucks, and show the tool bag, show the Visor air system in there, show the shackles, do some, towing and recovering some vehicles, and now that's in their head, right? We can sell it to every Jeep guy, every fucking truck guy. We can sell it to every dude doing equipment by just showing it out on the farm or out with semi-trucks and pulling the fucking tools out of there. It's the same product to a basis that we haven't marketed towards before.
Do you make a new label that says super overland equipment?
You don't have to. Special operations equipment matches everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't have to. Not at all. We could set up a whole nother company. I mean, we could offshore some shit and bring it in and not even use the SOE label. I wouldn't even associate it. But you could also do that. You'd make a killing too. We could bring product in from China. China does fucking great manufacturing, a lot of it. We could bring a Chinese product in, give it a slightly different name, and call it our offshore brand. LBX, that's London Bridge's offshore brand. Grey Ghost, that's Tactical Tailor's brand that's not made in the United States. Shellback Tactical, that was TAG's Mexico line. Everybody has them. And all we got to do is charge fucking 10% less. Because dudes are like, well, I can get this for 10% less. Perfect. Buy it for 10% less because my margin's 40% higher by bringing this in fucking quantities. But then we have to go back to that massive shipping. We can't ship enough out of the building, so we have to have dealers that are going to handle it. We're going to have to use an Amazon model or some kind of fulfillment, which I don't want to fucking do. That's that's juggling a whole nother fucking company.
No, and if you don't need to, staying true to the made in the motherfucking USA.
Build the brand.
Every bit. That blew my mind. Sternum straps, Fupa shoulder straps. The fact that those are made here in the building blew my mind.
And what's our biggest biggest frustration with the Fupa? It's not the body of the bag. Yeah. It's the fucking the simplest part.
Yeah. The part that a lot of people I think just probably put it on a shelf or it goes somewhere.
Oh, you think they buy it as an assembly somewhere else?
No, I'm saying I think that's would have been my assumption kind of coming in not knowing anything about gear manufacturing was that somewhere there was a box of shoulder straps.
Gotcha.
And, pre-sewn with
gotcha. Maybe they do because we fucking have a hell of a time doing it.
That was my thought.
That would be a place for an automated machine. If you used a bar tack right there on that, you wouldn't have to put the two. I put 2 lines of stitching everywhere, right? Because if you ever got that first line to fail, you have that secondary line, and we've just always done that.
Yeah.
We probably don't need to.
And
I've never seen them fail.
Yeah, if the first one, if it takes 40 years for that to fail, when you're on number 2, you've got
right,
you've got enough time.
You got almost half a century.
Yeah.
Yeah. You almost don't need to, man. Our stuff, you saw people who were mad at us pre-social media, that's what you would see out on the forums, right? You'd see like, it's, yeah, bomb-proof. Yeah, it's overbuilt, but it doesn't need to be. When the dudes were talking shit to you and they were saying your gear's built better than it has to, all right, I'll take that. Yeah. There was a little turd
but
talking.
But it's not Bartek.
There was
They'll say it at the same time.
Yeah, they do. There was a little turd talking shit, and he's like, we should not use the term bomb-proof with tactical. It was Agril, that little fat Korean piece of shit out of Colorado. He tried to cock block us a lot. Like Jaeger even, we could do hours of shit on it. I call him out. I see him in these gear forums where dudes are trying to learn how to build gear, and a kid will ask some shit, and he'll type out this 20-minute essay telling the kid and never answering the kid's question. Well, there's a search function. You should look it up. And I'm like, do you remember when you used to ask questions and I just give you the answer? I go, give him the fucking answer. And he'll just type the answer out. I'm like, he don't want this smoke. Like, I've got a lot to fucking say that hasn't been said about that motherfucker. And I know he's just hoping, God, I hope John doesn't fucking, like, I'm going to start he's just doing his own thing. You stay there. But he does know a lot of shit. Like, when these kids are asking questions, I'm like, Darren, what's the fucking answer? Because I want to know it too. I don't know what the guy, I think he actually works like for NASA and shit, but he does like reproduction. He does good work. Like he does, I respect what he does. He's just a turd. I don't even remember why I went off on that. What were we originally saying?
Oh shit. I don't know.
The Bartek thing. Like, yeah, doing the pieces and stuff.
Both things.
Yeah, the shoulder straps on the fupas. Like, that's the simplest thing. And then like consistency, right? So we're running, I tag everything. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I Z over and go 1, 2, 3, 4 over and down. I do that so I don't have to cut the thread, right? It's easier to do that. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, down, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll sew it in a chain. So my chain is kind of staggered. And when there's some bulk, I'll cut it apart to where it's not pulling on my machine. But these fucking girls are running 100 shoulder straps, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and there's 100 of them. So now you have all these you got 50 pieces pulling on like you have to manage this fucking bulk of shit. Mm-hmm. But somehow it's easier for them to do that and then take that 50 that's attached and go back here and go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Like, why in the fuck are you doing that? Can you not just zigzag over to the other corner? It's way fucking easier. And the truth is, we're paying them in labor probably 20-30% more to do it their way instead of my way. Which is, it's just baffling. Do it the fuck, like, are you fucking retarded? Did somebody drill a fucking hole in your head? Like, I look,
yeah.
Yep, there it is. There's the fucking, there it is, trepanation. They fucking drilled a hole in your head.
Do you think that, like, they think their way is easier? Like, they think they're saving time?
I think some of them just, like, I don't care if you do
like
drugs.
By not splitting it?
I don't care if you do drugs. You used the wrong drugs this morning, though.
The wrong ones?
Yeah, the wrong ones.
Right.
Use the ones that speed you up. Like, stop the Thorazine drip. Like, if you're drooling, like, you stop the fluoride stare. You're talking to them, but you know they're not hearing your language. It's like the Bart Simpson dog listening to Bart. Like, it's like the, on the Peanuts, right? When the adults were talking to Charlie Brown. Like, what the? It's just crazy, man. And we'll sew the same, like, oh, man, the frustration of it. We'll sew stuff Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the exact same shit, the same color and everything. And all of a sudden on Friday, they'll sew stuff backwards. Literally fucking backwards. Mm-hmm. Like, you need a babysitter. Like, you really have to pay somebody to stand over them and just walk. And that's like I tell Miranda all the time, I'm like, we know that this person is eventually going to have a catastrophic meltdown. We can't have them sew everything all the way through without an inspector. Somebody has to inspect it. It's like I had them stop products that we edge tape. I'm like, hey, before this stuff gets concealed with edge tape, we need to put eyes on it and know how many lines of stitching are in this shit, right? Because a lot of companies, they'll stitch stuff once and then cover it with edge tape. That gives you 2 lines of stitching holding the bag together. Our standard is 3, and then edge tape. That gives you 4 lines. I have stuff sewn with 1 line of stitching. We did the first super kit bags sewed with one line of stitching, and then when they overlapped where they start and stopped, I tacked that in just to hold that so that that tack couldn't come out. We filled them with 70 pounds. Used to be the Southwest flight. You could fly with 70 pounds without having to pay overweight. And all of our bags were 75 to 80. We had to pay overweight to go to Vegas for SHOT Show. And we took those. We first went to the condos we were staying at. We were on the 3rd floor. Jaeger was there. And we took all of those bags. They had just asphalted this parking lot in this new fucking project area, the housing. And we were throwing them off the 3rd floor. We were there early in the day. We were throwing them off the 3rd floor with 75 to 80 pounds in each bag, heaving them out into the parking lot. We got asphalt was stuck to the bags. The asphalt was so fucking hot. None of those bags failed, and those were all single stitch. Now, there wasn't anything rigid or hard in the bags.
Right.
It was all nylon gear that we were taking to Blade Show or to SHOT Show, and we were having a big after party afterwards. And that's what it was all there for. But with a single line of stitching, none of those bags failed.
Yeah.
But we still put 3 lines in all of our bags. All of our handles where they're on there, the leading edge, that's the, if you take that handle and you rip it, that first line of stitching, that's leading edge. When we take them and we do on a pull tab, the first line of failure where it takes the brunt of, that's leading edge, right? So if that pull tab sewed on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1, 2, 3, leading edge is that 5 lines of stitching. All of our handles on our bags are sewn 3 minimum. That's the leading edge. And then it zigzags over or X's, and there's another 3 or 4 lines of stitching. You're never going to rip that. It's never coming off. But if you used it for something you shouldn't use it for, like towing a truck, which a dude just said he did, we know we can do that.
Yeah.
God, I mean, we don't advertise that anymore because assholes would take your shit and intentionally try to make it fail. Like there was a bunch of dudes buying Strider knives, and they would break them on purpose and then want to execute the lifetime warranty. And it was always the same dude sending broken knives in. They had whole channels. They had whole fucking, in the beginning of YouTube, they had whole channels about destroying Strider knives. So we don't, like, we know it'll do it. We don't advertise that it will do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, like, maybe the first time I was working on the table, or first time, you know, it was you and I alone on the table. And I had been, like, being really gentle with stuff because, like, I know as a customer when I got my SOE stuff.
Have you ever seen them put in a knee replacement? You ever see them do ortho surgery? It's like that. Yeah, with the sledgehammer.
Yeah,
no wonder you're so
where
sore.
I'm like kind of trying to pull on stuff to see, like, will it hold, like, using
make
my
it,
eyes
make it,
more.
Make it fail here.
You come over, you're like, if you can rip it apart with your hands, I don't want it leaving the building.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, all right, like, yeah,
Yeah, break that motherfucker now before it breaks for somebody for real.
Yeah. They can take a lot more than you would think. And
when your competitors are saying it doesn't have to be that good, you know you're doing the right shit.
Yeah. Yeah. If it fits, it works for you. You're making a profit. Like,
if it fits, it ships.
Yeah.
If it doesn't fit, make it fit.
Yeah.
What else you got? You got anything else on your?
Well, this might be a longer one, maybe.
I'm trying to keep these around an hour, guy. We're at we're at 107 right now. If you guys like these videos, we'll keep doing them. You keep asking questions. We'll build the videos off your questions, and then we'll interact where we can. Keep going. What do you got?
All right. In underrated, I've got here most underrated, but something that you think we build that's like an underrated piece of gear that should be more popular, maybe something that has multiple uses, or something that comes in handy, something that you use all the time but we don't ship a lot of. Is there anything that pops on your head on
all of
like
it?
That?
All of it. And here's why:
Yeah.
because we've done a very poor job. We've done a very poor job about showing what else all this will do. Like, and the first time this realization ever hit, it was the spent magazine pouch. We built the spent mag pouch for Force Recon, right? When they were running through the SOTG packages. Kurt Gosney, Phil Cheney, who's probably listening to this, both of them probably are. Phil Cheney just bought a fucking beautiful ranch right up in Kentucky here. And he runs a training school. You should get with Phil.
Okay.
Phil's training tons of law enforcement agencies and federal agencies. He was the primary CQB instructor for SOTG when Scully was there. Big fucking dude doing fucking, like, just a good dude, still physically in shape. And he came to me and he's like, hey, we need this spent mag pouch. So we had kind of a pouch. They wanted to take a saw pouch and basically make it as a spent mag pouch. So we kind of built that. We put the scuba webbing inside. Inside the 2 pieces of Cordura, there is scuba webbing, 2-inch dive belt webbing. We use a high resin content. That's why it's so stiff. The stuff we're getting now is almost too stiff to even sew through. Like we literally probably need to bring in a heavier machine to do this at this point. And that held its shape. And then they're like, can we put elastic in here? So that's the pussy lips that are in
like
there.
the one way.
And then we wanted to conceal that in case, because they're swimming with these things, they're hook and climb, and they're doing gas oil platforms and shit. So we put the flap that Velcros back, and now you can just access this. And they were using it for their breachers for shotgun. Nobody was indexing rounds. You just pull them out whichever way they came, and they're putting them into 590s, Mossberg 500s in the beginning, probably even 870s. And then it was the Benelli M4s. But they were using them. They would have all these guys doing the Musoc pistols, the 1911s back then. They would have them drop their mags and shit. So they were putting the excess bullets in there and then topping mags back off as need be on the line. So they didn't have to go back to tables and shit. And then we saw 45 shells or 9 mil, because they were doing it with the MP5s also. They were using MP5s prior to Pat Rogers doing the transition MP5 to M4s when they got the M4s. It goes back that far. But the 9 mils would fall through the bottom. That's why that piece of Velcro is still on the inside. We put a piece of Velcro on the inside, put the grommet through the Velcro, and it ships with that piece of Velcro over there so that you could put, if you're using that later on for kids doing, or even you doing 22 shells or just whatever, we can lock that off, but we still have that 1/2-inch grommet, and that comes from all the amphibious operation stuff. Nobody in the industry, even nowadays, I don't think, other than maybe some small shops, have a fucking number 4 grommet. Plus, number 4 grommets, that machine, it takes more maintenance. If it's fucking auto, if it's kick press, you see the issues we have, right? You can't really put enough downward pressure, so you got to kind of bounce, and then people move that. That's why we actually physically cut an X. We literally draw an X, cut it, nip it, put the grommet through, because that number 4 doesn't punch like the self-piercings on the Zeros, those little ones we use. But our water evacuates immediately if we come out. There's not it dries out. There's a lot to that pouch. And then, like, that pouch has the scuba around the face holding the shape. We also have scuba on the back. So that whole thing is a square, rigid square. Then we put the pals over it so that you can affix it to modular stuff. There's 4 pieces of pals. We can lock it onto gear so you can use it for a 249. You can use it for a saw drum. You can use it for belted ammo. It'll hold 6 mags. You can actually jam 7 M4 mags in there. But then it also comes with a leg hanger and a leg strap. We can put it on the leg. It just does fucking everything. There's a ton to it. Plus it has pistol mags, and it has 4 chem lights. So they were marking doors. Have we been here? Have we not been here? Does the team coming through doing site surveillance exploitation, is there something we think they need to come in here and look at? We can mark the chem lights, and that's why those 4 chem light pouches are on the front. And then the pistol mags, are we putting pistol mags? Maybe we are on the primaries on the front, but on the back, is that a multi-tool? Is that a light? Is that a backup light? What is, all that shit is right there in that pouch. And we used to sell that motherfucker for like $45. Like,
damn.
I mean, just building the leg straps. We build our leg straps in a manner completely different than anyone else. Like, everybody builds their leg straps where they take a piece of elastic and they run it through the buckle. Sometimes you'll see a piece of webbing in there for the abrasion. Sometimes you won't, depending on the company. Our elastic is not made in that manner. We run webbing through that 2-inch buckle on the leg strap. We run it to elastic here and then webbing back here. So we want the elastic towards the back of the leg, so that if you're catching abrasion, you're on the side of a building, you're prone, whatever you are, the elastic is protected towards the back of your leg. There's also 2 layers of elastic there, sewn independently. So if you were to somehow cut that top layer of elastic, there's still a second piece of elastic in there. Like, we've never seen a leg strap failure ever, still, in 35 years. They just don't happen.
Yeah. It's crazy. You're saying that you used to sell that entire pouch for like such
Yeah.
a low price. I'm like, it's gotta, at this point, I don't know what material costs were back then, but it's gotta cost.
Well, we didn't know.
Like just the straps.
I didn't know that we were losing money on things. Like, I just didn't, right? If Eagle was selling a dual pistol mag pouch at $25, ours has more labor in it, and we don't have the capacity and the automated equipment that Eagle had, but we're selling it at $15. And I even knew, I guess I did know, because it was like a loss leader, right? People, the grocery store doesn't make money on loaves of bread and milk and grapes. They put those on sale to get people in because they know they're going to fill the shopping cart with other things, right? We should not have been selling a duty belt and a dual pistol mag. We should have been selling LBVs. But if a guy could go and buy an LBV someplace else because they have a belt and everything else, that's literally was my thinking with that. I have to do these things so that they will buy these things. It's because everybody wants to one-stop shop, especially when the internet was new. It was difficult to use. So we had to have that shit because they were asking for it. So if they asked for it consistently, we built it. And that's how it is. Now, I mean, really, our pistol mags and our duty belts and shit still don't cost enough. I still, because I pull orders. You know, I'm in there every fucking morning pulling orders before any of you guys get there, so you can do your tasks first thing in the morning in case there's not other stuff ready to go. And I look at things and I'm like, holy fuck, I can't believe we're selling that for $35. This should be $65. and like, and I raise it. And you know what happens? We still sell just as many of them.
Yeah, that's like Sarah asked me today. She's like, what is this code? And I'm like, oh, Chris is mad. He must have been bitching about something, you know? And she's like, it was over like $200 off on this guy's order.
Yeah,
and
I only ordered fucking $2,000.
Good for him. Like,
yeah, that's what happens, man. When I tell, I don't think people believe it when I'm like, on a Black Friday, we will do $1 million to $1.5 million in sale in 3 days. And I don't think people can fathom how that works. And right now this happens every year. We know it's going to happen, and it's usually females. Starts off with, we ordered this, and I immediately type out, who the fuck is we? And then I read the rest, because I know there's some more in there. Who the fuck is we? You got a mouse in your pocket. And they're like, well, we ordered this for Christmas presents. And I'm like, okay, well, whoever placed the order, have them email me, because clearly you didn't place the order. Because had you placed the order and you used a code, the only place you got the fucking code was from our email and our text. And our email and our text said, we don't have any of this shit. We don't know when we're going to ship it. If you use this code and get 20% off, it's going to come when it comes. It's eventually going to come. Mm-hmm. And we got to build this shit. Plus, this item didn't even fucking exist. We made this in the website because whoever ordered this asked for this thing. One of them was and this guy didn't go sideways or anything, but I just saw an order going through he wanted a tiger stripe orange thread tool roll up. Doesn't fucking exist.
Yeah.
Hey, I would like to order this. Okay, we will put it on the website. You can order it. And when we have them and run a small, like that.
It's like the secret menu got posted behind the cash register.
That's exactly what it is. It's the secret menu.
Yeah.
And if you know how to do it, you know how to do it. That's why when we posted those videos burning that dude's shit, I said, hey, if there's something you want to order that you've not been able to order, let me know, and maybe we'll open it up for you. But going into this, we don't have, I even put it on there when I did it. I go, we don't have this shit. We don't know when we're going to have this shit. But when we do have this shit, it will ship. We don't know until it ships. You're going to know the same day we know. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we get people that don't read that or whatever. I had a girl last night. I got a message. Like, I've been getting these messages on my phone through text, which is weird because my number's not out there. It's showing me something else. Like, you don't even have my phone number, right? Because I use text so infrequently that my phone literally takes my text box and puts it somewhere else on my phone. It's not on my home screen because I use social media. So I get this message roll, Sue, while I'm talking to Brandel last night. I talk to Brandel every night. We kiss goodnight through the phone. Sometimes he's asleep and I fall asleep first. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, Brandel, are you still there? Yeah, I'm still here. I was listening to you snore. So I'm doing messaging him and I see this message roll through, go, I didn't order these gummy bears. Immediately cancel this order. I don't want them, and I don't know how my card was even used. I didn't approve this. Super weird, because my number's not attached to fucking anything on that phone. And then I get another one, like I also sent an email. So I immediately take the phone number, put it in our order system. Doesn't exist. Fucking weird. But she said she sent an email. So I go and I'm very curious this morning, and that's what I wake up looking to see what the fuck this is going to be. And we're going to do a video about it, as a matter of fact, today. And there's a message that says, this is complete bullshit. I didn't know it was going to take this long to ship these. I expect you to reply back and tell me that my order has been canceled and refunded. That's weird, because I say canceled and refunded. Like, so I think it's somebody that knows the video or something. They ordered gummy bears and gummy bear patches. Neither page says, hey, go order these here. They had to seek these out on the website, and our website's not the easiest to use. And then I see a couple emails below that, I get a notification for the order, and the order actually was placed. And then I see another one that said, the shipping's just too expensive, please cancel my order. So it's gone from, hey, the shipping costs too much, which is weird because it shows you before you pay for it what the shipping's going to be. And then it goes to, this order's going to take too long. I didn't know it was going to take too long. Cancel my order. And then I get this random, I didn't authorize this. I'm charging this back. Like, this person is completely melted down last night. And this all happened after 11 o'clock at night.
So when was the order placed?
11 o'clock last night.
So, like, just within a couple hours,
within a few minutes, because I went to bed at 11. I went to sleep at 11:30. So in a 30-minute period.
So there's crazy people out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But we're going to take her name, make it a code. The code's going to be gummy bear. We're going to give you a free 1 pound of gummy bear. Amanda's fucking doing gummy bears right fucking now, because we're going to go and light some gummy bears on fire and make fun of her and do that's going to be the promo code. But anytime we do a promo code where we don't have to build something, we just put a bag of gummy bears in.
Yeah. Sales
will go up 50% over the weekend, and it's very easy to fulfill those orders.
Yeah. Very cool. That's the secret of the code. That's what I was trying to explain to her. She's like, what does this mean? Chris is mad.
Well, we got to show her the video. Show her the Christmas tree.
Yeah,
she's going to be like, she's either going to be like, these guys are crazy, or I've worked customer service. This is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
There's not going to be any in between.
That's going to be her vibe.
Yeah, we're going to lose her, or she's going to be stronger.
So, belts. How have you seen them change over time in terms of the EDC context? Like, because belts, two totally different worlds, right? Like the belt that dude's wearing right now while he's watching this.
So guys have belts that hold their pants up.
Yeah.
And then guys they call them bat belts, right? Mm-hmm. You had the police belt. You have the belt that holds your pants up, but then you have the outer belt. They also call them Sam Brown belts and stuff. So all of your equipment, your pistol mags, your radio, your baton, your handcuffs, those all go on that 2-inch outer belt. And in the military, it was a 2 1/4. It was called the Alice belt, 2 1/4-inch belt. Then you had the belt. Most of the military belts that held your pants up were just shitty, like uniform belts. So they had to use belt keepers. So if a cop or a dude is jumping fences or gets in a tussle, that belt on the outside is not attached to anything.
Okay.
It will bounce up and down when they run. So they would use belt keepers to mate and lock that inner belt to the outer belt. And those were 6, typically, or sometimes 4, little straps with snaps on them.
So that was kind of like the first step in that. Like,
I don't know about first, but when I
got these two belts.
I'm 52. I'm 53 now, and that's been around since as long as I can remember.
Okay.
So then you saw dudes that were doing Velcro, right? So we do the Velcro liner belt that locks to that 2-inch belt. Now you don't need those keepers. But our belts have loop Velcro on the inside so that all of our pouches lock in place, and that's the industry standard, so that they don't slide around on the belt. That means the hook has to be in that liner belt, which means you're not using that liner belt without the outer belt, because that hook catches to all your clothing. And then when you put that hook belt through your belt loops, if you're Levi's or anything else, it eats the shit out of them. So do we flip it around? Well, if we flip it around and we do the loop in the inner belt can now be used as a normal belt. But if you have hook on your outer belt, you now cannot use your outer belt just to put on without the other one, because it eats all your shit up. So you really need, it's like having vehicles. You can have a nice, comfortable vehicle to go on a road trip, but you still need to have a fucking truck to haul shit with, right? You have to have both. And that's how chest rigs are. That's how everything is. Do you have to? No. Are you better off? Yes, you are. You can make any rig work for shotgun, but nothing works better than the shotgun rig. And you cannot use the shotgun rig for anything else but shotgun. Can we make something that does everything? Sure you can. That's how you get a chest rig that weighs 5 pounds and doesn't do anything perfectly.
Right.
And it's like that. So the belts, then we come onto the scene with the Cobra buckles. Back in 2000, Patrick, who owned Triple Aught Design, very, very famous company, boutique EDC clothing. Patrick now runs Prometheus Design, amazing company, great people. Very, very like Triple Aught Design jackets, and they would do these drops of these jackets, and I have the perception that there was maybe 100. They would sell out of them in minutes. Like the website would crash. I knew I had made it when we could do a release and our website would crash. That was kind of like the calibration of, oh, we've got something here.
Okay.
And a lot of it was just by design. You can come buy our product at any time, but you can only buy their product on the drops. And Strider, very close with those. They're the same type of thing, right? So he brought down some Astri Alpen buckles before they were ever called Cobra buckles. That is the company that makes the Cobra buckle. They're out of Austria. He came down. He's like, I want to build these belts. We built a few of them. I have the very original one in the building still, and we just never went anywhere with them.
What type of, was that a duty belt or was that like
it's really our
EDC?
It's very similar to the EDC belt.
Okay.
So we did those. And then they came out with like a 1.5, so we did the 1.5 belt. The 1.5 belt I built for Corey and Erica, and that's why that tail, I want a longer tail so we can adjust it. They wanted a shorter tail so that it didn't interfere with the holster. The most unforgiving belt we make. And then the G-Hook came out, and we built the G-Hook belt, and that's the most forgiving. It's what I wear every day. And now we've got dudes doing belts, like your belt is very fucking simple. We're about to even simplify it beyond that. It's just what the instructor is teaching, right? Mm-hmm. If we take your belt and we give it to a different instructor, he's going to hate that. It's nothing like he's used to. He hasn't taught that. Sonny has you going more minimalist on the belt because of the burr cut holster,
right?
Which is made
different draw stroke needs,
which is made by Green Force Tactical for Sonny, and he teaches that. Like you said the other day, if you want one of his holsters and it has a light, Sonny has to approve it, or they won't even build. You can't even have the holster fucking made. Love it. Controls the market.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not. It doesn't matter what you're saying about him as long as you're saying it. Whether you like him or don't like him, publicity's the same.
Yeah, he said it has to be submitted to me for approval, and it won't be.
I'm gonna get some made. I'm gonna do some crazy shit. I want a holster takes the pistol with the suppressor, with an aim point.
Yeah.
With
a mag light hose clamp to the pistol.
All of it, yeah. And we're going to build that. I did see somebody making a holster the other day for a grenade launcher.
Okay.
It's fucking badass. Like, really neat. Somebody had liked one of my comments somewhere, and I checked their page out. Really neat. I wish I remembered. I'd shout them out. I don't remember the name of the company, but they're doing some neat shit. I like it. I would just buy theirs. I don't have any. I'd get an airsoft one or something. I'd love to have. Or if we could find like a launcher that launched golf balls or something that would use I would buy it just to get their holster. It's pretty fucking rad. That's how I buy trucks and shit. What parts are available? It has nothing to do with the truck. There better be a lot of shit available. I want to be able to change it. But the holster, the belt, we've got the 2-inch duty belt was the first because we put them on all the big rigs. Trouser belt was the next belt. Our EDC belt, even though we didn't call it the EDC belt, that was the third. 1.5 Cobra was the next one. Low profile was the one after that. And then we started doing liner belts, which is what you have on. And we did those where you could get them with hook or loop. So no matter which system where you were using, a lot of companies get stuck building stuff that works with their stuff. But they don't realize that that's 2% of the market. If you build stuff for other stuff, there's also companies that have popped up that just make parts for other stuff. Like there's a company, I think Longship Design was one of them, doing really neat stuff. And they just build parts that worked on Spiritus system rigs.
Right.
So they made like flaps and different, just cool shit. I would love to sit down and podcast with all these dudes. If you're listening to this and you make a product and you have this perception that we don't like you because you make product kind of competes with us, like I want to be friends with all of you. And if you don't like me and you're like, fuck that John Willis guy, he was mean, so I started a company, I want to talk to you even more and be friends with you. Like I legitimately, I don't want to, I have no hate. Well, I do have hatred for a few people, but it's not you. Yeah. So if you've got a company and you want to come in and sit down and do a podcast, I'd love to. I'd love to fucking sit down and talk like this with you guys.
So where the Cobra buckle, did you ever do like an EDC belt with like a Fastex or a plastic buckle, or it was kind of at the Cobra buckle level when you started going to concealed carry stuff from duty belt stuff? Like, was that EDC style?
You know,
belt,
I don't
was
know
that
why.
The first, like...
No, we did have some smaller belts that had a Fastex on there. That fucking Cobra buckle is so cool. It's like a piece of fine German engineering. Have you ever seen any Nazi guns? Like, I guess we're not supposed to say that, German guns.
I shot an MG42.
Okay, so we went to this house in Las Vegas, and it was all like desert landscaped, and it was very unassuming. But when you walked in the house, all the windows were barred. Like, it was very high security. But I think it was just because it was in a shitty neighborhood. I think the other neighbors had bars on their windows too. But when you walked inside, there was very little furniture. It was all guns. It was weapons racks. The whole fucking all four walls in each room. And there was a lot of German guns in there from World War II. They had SS marks. And the SS armorers, each piece of the gun had the armorer mark and whatever little serial number. Yeah. So those were all accurate pieces that were on those guns when they were taken from the armories. And HK back then was making a lot of those guns. They had guns that looked just like HK91s and such prior to them being HK91s or G3s. They had claw mounts. They had mounts that you could take the optics off and put them back on, even back then. And they're just very precise. These guns that we're looking at are from, 1930, 1940, even pre. And just now, and when like Porsche, right? When I got my first Porsche, that thing had air conditioning that blew air on your balls. The steering wheels were heated, right? You had to go 10 years forward before you had any of that shit in any of the other cars. They're always ahead. German engineering, European engineering, it's always ahead. And that's kind of how that is, right? And that buckle was just so fucking cool. You're never going to have a plastic buckle sitting on your desk and while you're doing whatever or talking on the phone when I used to, you'd be like, that's your fidget spinner. But it always was the Cobra buckle. It just had that Expensify option to it. And it was, you didn't need it. And I actually forgot, we made the Riggers belt was really our second belt.
Okay. Yep.
And then the Cobra Riggers belt. We made Cobra Riggers belts before we made anything else.
So the traditional Riggers belt kind of has like a slide lock to
H315 and an H355 BK means it's black. It's pieces of parachute hardware. It's actual pieces of parachute hardware.
Okay.
And you had a lot of companies that were running their tail single layer and then using a Class 7 machine to sew the stitching. We didn't ever have to use a Class 7 machine because we made our entire belt double layered. So the double layer where the bite was like 12 inches through the double bypass. So I was never concerned about life support. I was never concerned about sewing with cord on that belt because it was double layer. And then when the Cobra buckle came out at 175, we had to go to a different type of webbing because that webbing wouldn't fit through their adapter. And then go forward 10 years, they actually made their bar bigger so that we could use the type 13 webbing or the type 7 instead. So that buckle was a little bit different how those belts were built. We didn't have to do that in that manner. What was your question originally?
Kind of more on the concealed carry EDC side of things, like where were belts at?
So you'd asked about the plastic. You'd asked about the plastic buckle. Like I didn't put the plastic buckle on there because, guys, like we did some stuff where you had an option. It was always a pain in the ass to go build with the plastic buckle because the guy was trying to save $20. Whereas the Cobra buckle, we just couldn't even build enough of them. So we didn't offer the plastic option. When you see that on like our, we do a 24-inch lanyard where they can order a Fastex buckle or a Cobra buckle. They all order the Cobra buckle. You don't need it. It's loud. It clinks on shit. Like you have the option where you can add a Cobra buckle to our sling, to our single point sling.
Yeah.
They pay $50 to do that. But guys still do it, and it makes noise, and it tinks on your gun. There's no need for it, but it's just fucking cool.
Yep.
Really, we build belts as they're ordered, which is the downfall, right? I cut the belts. Every single time I've had somebody cut belts, while I'm standing there, they do fine, and then within a few weeks, we start getting people where their belts are like, hey, this belt doesn't fit. We bring it in, and I'm like, this motherfucker cut it wrong. So I just do the belts. You have the most expensive, seemingly, that's what Scully says. You've got the $1,000 employee doing the fucking $20 or $15 an hour work. And I spend all my day doing the $15 an hour work. Because I'm like, fuck it, I'll just do it myself. Because we know it's going to be right. We should be building belts in a manner where we have 100 of each of the standard sizes. If you want a black belt, we should have a quick ship option like everybody else does. To where we just run that webbing out in piles. So it's all the same when it's stacked up. And then we just build them. And then in the morning, we just go pull the belts. If you want a 32-15, you want a 32 EDC, whatever, we should have those there.
Yeah, a couple of the common sizes. Because I was thinking, like, how many options there are.
So
like,
Jason,
I want this accent color with this thread. Like,
Jason
you can't
does our
stock all that.
Jason does our website. The other Jason. And when we went to, so we have black base for EDC belts, and we have coyote base for EDC belts. And then you can put whatever color on top, and then you can add the thread color, and then you can do it with or without Velcro. I wanted to do gray. I'm like, I need to add gray in here. The website's not letting me do it. He looks at it, he goes, John, you have 14,000 part numbers in EDC belts, just in 2 colors. That's why dudes are like, hey, I know you make gray ones, but it's not here. Well, it's there. There's 8 pages of belts. The gray is its own option because we couldn't add it in because the combination was over 14,000 already. We make 14,000. When people are like, how many products do you make? I'm like, I don't know, but I've got 14,000 part numbers just in 2 belts because we go up to 60.
Yep.
And then you can secret code it if it's over, like we get dudes order 72 and even 80-inch belts. And all you do is you order the 60 and you put in notes. Really, we should charge more, but we don't for it. As you go up every 4 inches, it does charge a little bit more. That material costs us dollars per fucking foot of webbing, and then the labor involved in it. I don't know how many parts we got, but we got over 14,000 parts just in belts, and we make over fucking 10 different kinds of belts.
Yeah. So keeping that many things in stock is just not a feasible.
It's not. Really what should happen is we should just do the standards, and we don't charge enough either. There's plenty of other companies that come along after us that are charging way more for that belt because I'm just terrible at the business aspect of business. If I had an analyst come in, they'd be like Josh was saying the other day, he's like, we started a company consulting for restaurants. We go into restaurants that are not profitable. We turn them around in 90 days. And I go, what's the big difference? He goes, well, they got half of their menu they're losing $2 to $3 a plate on. And if I had a dude come in, an analyst or a forensics guy come in and look at that shit, he'd be like, you need to turn off half this shit or raise the price. And we wouldn't notice it. The only difference is we would make more money because we lost less money. Like that's the answer, right? We'd have more money every day in the bank accounts. But I just am busy just doing what I do, right? We just make enough money other places, and I'm sure we're losing money on things. But the belts, we should have them ready to go. We should raise the prices on them. Those are quick ship, and then do the others under customs. Whereas we got to put the thread. Really, when we put colored thread in some, and that's why so many people love our shit. Mm-hmm. You cannot go someplace else and get red thread. I know there's a couple dudes doing it, but they can only do 1 or 2. They can't kick out fucking 100 pieces with it. When we sew red thread into something, we literally sew it first. Like we're to the point now, we don't even try to make it stitch after stitch after stitch. We sew it in black and then over sew it twice, if not 3 times in red, so that the color pops. And I say red, but what I mean is pink, orange, yellow, red, toxic green, TIFF blue, royal blue. I mean, we've got, that's how we end up with 14,000 part numbers and belts.
Yeah.
And then fucking 60 different sizes.
But do you have rainbow thread on
Somebody
Reddit?
asked me that the other day.
Isaac,
Somebody, was it that who it was?
Yeah.
I've seen it, but it never, it doesn't look right. When you look at like multicam cord,
Yeah.
I'm like, multicam cord? Fuck, multicam black 550 cord would be fucking awesome. But when you look at it, it's not. It doesn't look like that.
Yeah, it's like a novelty thing.
I did buy all of the shoelaces out of the first run, though. I bought every fucking one that was made out of the multicam and the multicam black of all the boot laces. Other people have them now because they've run them again, but I did buy all of those.
What was the thought on that? Did you have like a piece of gear you were going to incorporate?
No, I wanted them, and they're
mind,
like, you have to buy the whole die lot. I'm like, okay, I'll buy the whole die lot. No, I bought them fucking to sell as shoelaces.
Okay.
They're actually 72-inch boot laces.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't even know they made those.
We have bins, we have shoe boxes full of them sitting in the shop because I'm terrible about selling shit.
Right.
Every time I go over, I walk past that. We have like 2 aisles of t-shirts. We run 120 shirts every Monday. We never rerun the same design. Very, very rarely. So inevitably, the system will be off a little bit, right? I get a bunch of employee shirts because every employee gets a shirt every Monday. And the employees change sizes or they ebb and flow. So I end up I bring in 5 shirts for myself, 1 for Brandel, 1 for Jeff, 1 for Amanda, 1 for all of our affiliate marketing people, all of our social media influencers. And then they change sizes. Well, that size never gets taken off. So I get 2 boxes for us and employees and then 5 or 6 boxes for production for sale. And I'll have all these will accumulate, and finally I'll have them up so high and they're in my way and they start falling over. I'm like, fuck. So I take a couple hours, put them all into inventory, but inevitably something's off by 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. So by Monday, more shirts come in, and we want all those new shirts up front so that we can pull them real fast in the morning and they get put over in the cubicles that Evan and Jody came in and built. And they work great, mm-hmm. but we're never going to take the time to pay labor to correct that inventory. So we've got all these shirts in here in 1s and 2s that you can't order. And I'm like, I just need to take these and fucking put them in the dumpster, light them on fire, donate, whatever it is. And when I go to do it, I'm like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I just can't. I know that's $18,000 in shirts right there that nobody can fucking order. I can't bring myself to give them away or throw them away. And it's going to cost more to have somebody put them online properly.
Yeah.
And they're always in the way.
But it's cool because then every once in a while you'll do one of those promos.
And that's why we do the promos.
Right.
Yeah. Especially like where, hey, you order $100, we're going to give you 2 free shirts. But we still have to take them and make sure they're not in inventory. It still requires a manual. If you see shipping, what you don't see is somebody else has already checked that and corrected the inventory at the same time on those things.
Yeah. Man. So, future of like belts. Everybody, it seems like on the internets, like the Reddit would have you believe that these
the click belts.
So
I've seen one. I've never worn one, but I've heard several people say that they have failed. They fail. I've seen that the ratchet system fails, and I've also seen that where the ratchet system is like stitched on or whatever, I guess they're plastic, that they're coming off. Have you seen one?
I had a major failure, not with the ratchet system, but with the other side on the buckle.
How is it affixed?
So it's got kind of a hinge that I guess is like asymmetrical. So it's got like these teeth. You cut the belt to the size you want, and then you stick it in. There's only about a 1/4 inch that it goes into the buckle, and then you kind of swing this door shut, and it's got these 4 teeth that then go down into the belt material.
So it bites, it pierces, or is there preset holes in it?
Yeah, no, it pierces into the material.
What I've seen people say is it's either too tight or too loose. It's not a finite adjustment, even though those clicks are there. I know with this belt, for instance, when we run around on the weekends, I don't hydrate as well, and I'm aspirating right. I'm constantly drinking. I drink 12 of these a day. Every day, at minimum.
And there's some water in there.
There's some water. But on the weekends, especially when we're running around from place to place, I'm tightening my belt more. It's not because it has slipped. It's just because and then if I go eat a bunch, I might loosen it or something, depending what's, on me and in my pockets and such.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I guess people say that those micro adjustments are so nice, but like 1 inch, right? Is that what you've got on the EDC Low Pro? Is 1 inch if you like slide the hook one spot?
So yeah, you're about an inch. You have 4 loops. I don't ever move my loop.
Okay.
I just unvelcro the Velcro and move it, and I'll tighten it down or let it out. I don't ever move the loop. The loop is there really if you're going to take something bulky like a holster you're carrying appendix, and you're going to take it off. For the most part, our clientele does not remove that holster.
Yeah.
And that's really made for, I have to go to court, I'm going in and out of some place that's controlled, and I have to download into a locker or lift in the vehicle. That's why those are there.
See, and I was using the G hook for my like before and after dinner adjustments. Like I would just take that extra inch. So I'd either have it on like the number 2 or the number 3 loop out of the 4, and then just slide it to the other one.
I could see it too, like if you're carrying extra mags, appendix.
Yeah. Well, appendix, like we started getting into that.
Or in the waist, I
last
should
week.
say, more in the waist.
Yeah, but like when you do, if you were going to do weighted dips or weighted pull-ups, think about how loose that belt is on you. But because of your structure, like the weight hanging in the front.
You're not attaching weights to that, are you, to do weighted pull-ups?
No, but I'm saying like that belt isn't going to slide down.
Correct.
Even though it's way more in circumference than your body.
If I go to a gym, I don't change my clothes. I work out in these pants with this belt and all my whatever I happen to have on.
That's some Pat Mac shit right there.
I don't. You won't. If you look at, if
too.
you see videos of me running on the treadmill in the morning, or doing the elliptical, I'm still in these clothes. I change shoes when I work out. I'm weird. I change shoes several times a day. Anytime I go outside, I have different shoes. When I come inside, I take those shoes and those socks, and I also take a shower so that those socks that have been out in the barnyard never go in and corrupt these shoes. That bacteria never goes in here. I'm weird like that. But my shoes never stink. I never have shoe odor. When I take the shoes off, like when I'm in the shower, I have a fan, like a fan for drying the floors, and I set that fan where it blows in those shoes and airs those shoes out. But pants and belt, like if I'm outside, I have on outside pants, and I have on different. That's why when I come inside, I disappear because I go take a shower when I'm coming back in to be inside. But I don't ever work out in different shit. I work out in different shoes and socks, but I don't work out. I wear the same pants.
See, I definitely get dressed like totally different to work out. I don't know if it's
What if you got in a gunfight while you're at the gym?
At the gym, that means someone kicked in my door.
Because you're at home.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
And we're ready to fight.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's like that mental switching where like, okay, done with XYZ, like it is, you put the uniform on for the workout. Like, so I think that helps.
I think that probably does help because
in.
I am easily distracted when I work out.
Yeah. So it helps me shift that mental mode.
If you can lock in an hour to your workout program where you do nothing but work out, because it's the phone, right? I don't like this song. I'm going to check it, and I see the notification for this because I've just posted a video, and I'm looking at notifications and replying and interacting with people. So that does definitely take away. If you can compartmentalize and lock down the workout will get you a lot further for sure. You're going to get more out of it.
So, yeah, I think the whole quarter-inch adjustments, I think is as much ado on nothing.
So I've never seen one. And for guys that like those belts, more power to you.
Yeah.
The truth is I can't build enough belts. We have stacks of orders for belts all the time. You will eventually get your belt. Sometimes you get your belt right when you ordered it. Sometimes it takes longer to get the belt. I don't need to try to build the market. Like, we have too much market right now for belts. we really should bring in probably some type of, like, I brought in an automated machine to build belts. I brought in a dual needle machine to run it through, but it didn't sew it this way. It was actually faster. I can build an EDC belt. I can build a 1.5 Cobra in 3.5 minutes. I can build an EDC belt in 4.5 minutes. We had a girl that worked here. All she did was build belts. She was at 4.5 minutes also to build belts. We were doing that. So what we were looking for was 12 belts an hour. And that's what she was kicking out. And we were doing that every day. And we had 2 people doing that. And that automated machine, every time we've tried to automate a process, it slows us down. Because you still have to, it's only sewing the sides. It had a roller on it that had tension. It had a pusher, a puller actually, that would pull the material through the double needle, just like we do on the PALS machine. But you still had to come back and sew this, and sew this, and sew this, and sew this. You had to push the edges down. It didn't fucking do the sides. It just only did the long run. It didn't do these, right? So where that meets, we have to sew those down. It took longer to use the automated machine.
Yeah. And then you're moving it from one machine to another machine.
And then when we hire a person to specifically teach them to do belts, inevitably fucking we have rigs, and they like people are like the belt rebuild, right? We used to send us $10 in your belt, and we would refresh the belt or put new Velcro or even resize the belt. We don't have anybody that opens the boxes. That's our big downfall. The biggest complaint, Evan's like, dude, why don't you just turn this off? I'm like, I never thought of turning it off. He's like, it's your biggest frustration. Evan comes here several times a year and works out of the shop for a few days because he's doing classes or whatever. He's like, dude, that's what everybody's complaining about. Why don't you just stop doing it? I'm like, you're right. We should stop doing it. People are like, why don't you hire somebody to open the boxes? We do. And then they end up with a fucking more important job that makes money. That literally is the capacity, is we can't hire enough people.
Well, and like going back to that, shipping container ship versus jet ski, like if you have someone who's trained in belts and you've got them on the belt machine, and boom, we need to make a bunch of VIP bags for the party, and like this person has no idea how to do it, like everything gets kind of fucked up. And you can't push what your priorities are.
Yeah, plus, I mean, we still do. Dudes are always like, hey, will you build this thing? I'm like, no, we don't do OEM. But the truth is we do for some people, right? Like, we get a PO for fucking $30,000 in radio pouches, or a PO for $12,000 in radio pouches. Everybody runs radio pouches. Like, we don't shut the line down. We've got 2 or 3 people working radio pouches for a day, and then that goes to the next, people have no concept of what comes out of this little fucking building. They have no fucking clue at the amount of shit that comes. It's unfathomable. Like, you would swear to God we're building it somewhere else.
Yeah, it is kind of cool, and like that, where you'll have radio pouches going on at the same time as fupas, at the same time as belts, at the same time as a bunch of other stuff, and it all kind of comes together.
Yeah, we're about to walk back in the building here, and there's going to be piles of gear on the table. There's days when we come in there at 4 or 5 o'clock after filming, and you can't even see the people on the other side of the table. There's so much gear.
Yeah.
And it's all around the table.
Especially, I know day packs are out on the floor.
Yep, those take some time.
Those take time, and there's pieces, and it's going back and forth.
But then they all hit.
And then they hit, and you're like,
where'd these 100 backpacks come from?
All right.
and it does, man. And I say we have 2 crews. There's the high performance crew and the other crew. And the other crew doesn't know there's a second crew because they leave right at 5 o'clock every day. They're the last ones here. They're the first to leave. The fastest thing they do every day is quit.
Yeah.
But when they leave, there's another 3 hours where 3 or 4 of us are standing there assembling and clipping and cleaning, and still the other crew's running another hour and a half. So they have no idea. They just come in the morning and whatever they're working on was gone.
Yeah.
Because the other motherfuckers finished it. Yeah, and they could be on the second crew. They just don't care to. We don't even tell them that it exists.
I think Bedros Koulian has he uses the terms fighter jet and crop duster.
Okay.
He's like, you got your crop dusters and you got your fighter jets.
Yep. Fighter jets higher maintenance.
Yeah.
Probably needs a little more rest. I remember Top Gun pilot came in when I was in the 8th grade, because we were right there by Top Gun. And he said for every hour that F-14 is in the air, it takes 8 man-hours on the ground. That doesn't mean that it's on the ground necessarily for 8 hours.
Right.
That means that 8 man-hours. So it might be 8 guys working 1 hour or 4 guys working 2 hours, but it's 8 hours of maintenance for 1 hour in the air. And I think that it's greatly more now, because even the 14 was still kind of, cables and shit. It's not fly-by-wire. So, all right, I think this is long enough. We're almost 2 hours. We set out to do 1 hour. If you guys like this and you want more of it, let us know. If you have questions, we will build some of these videos off the questions that you asked. That'll give content for the next week, and that ensures that the content is built in a manner and direction that you want it to go. So if you like that, check. Do you have a website?
It's not live yet.
What the fuck are you doing, man? When was the first time we talked about Elcar?
Fuck, man.
A year ago?
No, not that long. Not at all. Probably 6 months.
Okay, well, is there an Instagram they can follow you?
Yep. Elcar _
We
concepts.
might not. Okay, Elcar.
Elcar, LCAR _ concepts.
And if you message him and ask him about SOE orders, he does not fucking know.
Yeah.
He does not have any access to the orders. He cannot help you with your fucking order.
Yeah. Don't fucking text me.
That's what's going to happen.
Because I'm going to get 45 texts.
Do you notice we don't put...
next week, ask John this. Don't put that shit in the comments.
Yeah, put it in the comments.
This video.
Yeah, put it in the comments. We'll talk about it. And if you just tell us, man, you want to see this shit, we'll keep doing it. If you don't, and if you guys don't comment, we'll just stop doing it. And that's cool. We can do a lot of other shit with this time right here. And we'll see you guys next week.
I built this thing from the bottom, they tore it down, I rebuilt it. I give myself a task, you can bet your ass I fulfill it. Yeah, man, I'm talking about Willis, one of the realest.